Hi and good evening, everyone. My name is Albert, and this is Vlogs About Nothing. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy night to hear a 36-year-old gray hair face man break through multiple times. The puberty vocal range thing there. I'm not quite sure what goes on in my body, but I tell you, sometimes I open my mouth and I'm not even ready for what comes out. In terms of just like, I get it all the time. If you ever hit me up, um, which is not likely. I'm just saying that, like, on the phone, if not already over vlogs, I definitely sound like a female, and I'm gonna own that. You feel me? Like it's a slight to be sounding like a girl. In terms of, I mean, I love women. You feel me? Like, and I absolutely respect them in all of those different ways. But it's just sort of like I am also a dude. Anyways, I think that I sound like a woman on the phone. And if you've ever heard me speak on the phone before, you can definitely agree with that. People get it mixed up all the time. I get called ma'am all the time. Even after I say my name's Albert, which is really, really funny to me because it's like society's super accepting and I'm thinking that they think that like I'm a girl, but I'm just like my name's Albert. Or anyways, I always thought like the female version of my name was Alberta. I've met one person ever in my life named Alberta. I've met like five people with my act with Albert. You know what I mean? I'm the only Hispanic person I've ever met with the name Albert. Regardless, what we're talking about tonight is something called age gates. Link in the description below to the TED Talk that inspired me to, discuss this topic. And sort of as I'm thinking about it, and like I didn't do any research other than taking it away from a part of the conversation near the end of the video that's mentioned in terms of what the guy was selling, I'm mostly buying, with the exception of the overly reaching sort of Gen X approach to, modern problem day solving. Okay, and so age gate, and this is the whole funny thing, and I'm like a super word guy. Like what really cracks me up and what I really love about life is the inadequacy of the Western American interpretation of the English language, only because it leads for so many errors and it's entirely inaccurate. It's just a language that I find very, very intriguing because literally, as I'm thinking about this, you're walking through me when my thought process here is sort of like, okay, well, I'm listening to this dude, right? This Gen Xer hate on other Gen X and Boomers, you feel me? And I'm sort of like, okay, I'm about this guy, you know what I mean? I'm about it. And then he starts talking about some things, right, that sound a little bit like far reach in terms of, hey, if you've ever watched the channel, I'm sure you've heard me maybe say a few things that may be out of reach in terms of trying to conceptualize, right, in terms of a speaker's passion about a subject and so forth. And yeah, so age gate is like not like a, from my understanding of the contextualization, isn't like a Watergate or like well, let's not get in it, or like the air gate or the inflate gate or whatever with Tom Brady. It's not a conspiracy. But I don't know exactly again, but like it's not, age gate is like a literal gate in theory that like is a barrier. So like an age gate, from my understanding, is a literal like block where like through policy, the guy, link in the description below on the TED Talk, talks about how people should be 16 to utilize social media. And again, I was mostly buying what he was saying until I learned like where the thoughts are rooted from in terms of obviously, needing to make policy and so forth to make actual change through law and so forth and stuff. But when he said age gate again, and then extrapolated by saying once more that he believes people need to be 16 to use social media, like I'm going to argue way against that in terms of taking things away from people that they're accustomed to isn't the best way to address problems. And in fact, it's an easy way to lay the blame on those people, like, and not, evaluate our own sort of responsibilities towards providing our youth and younger generations with other opportunities, like, that aren't, on the phone or whatever. So, like, yeah, it's a lot easier to like just kick it with your friends while you're all watching TikTok, you feel me, for hours. But how much more difficult is it to facilitate actual physical movement in that, people should be outside in the world, if you're young, maybe at a bar. We're not encouraging drinking. In fact, we obviously almost every single day advocate for people to be very safe with all of their, recreational consumption of things and so forth. But again, to be a part of such a conservative culture that like, you know, that doesn't allow for adults to like openly express that going out to bars, and again, not just to drink, but just an example of a place where people congregate, you feel me, is like half the fun of learning what not to do in life. And if you don't make those mistakes, like going out with friends and learning, how to interact and date and, try to pursue different people IRL instead of just swiping or whatever. But like the thing is we have to encourage that as older people, like instead of again providing them with different options that require none of our support and all of like our gaslighting, in that we've given them these devices and now we're going to blame them for the world's problems. I mean, almost as if like we didn't think about what would happen before we started to do all of these things with tech and so forth, when like there were plenty of people who were thinking about the long-term effects and all of these things, right? And in fact, it's grown as it should. When I was a kid, social media wasn't, you weren't allowed to be on Facebook until you had a college like account linked to your profile, which is why everyone was on MySpace. I mean, are we all forgetting that MySpace was, targeted very minimalistically in a very short time period for like a very small group of very young people, including me, like ages 12 to 14. You feel me? Like, those are like, if you've heard people openly advocating for starting social spaces in that area for that age group now, there might be a lot of backlash in terms of PC sort of, kind of woke theory, in that it's all of a sudden like a bad thing now in terms of what we knew was a bad thing. Anything of too much of a thing is a bad thing. This is anything in life. It's from, eating your favorite candy bar to watching your favorite show on YouTube, which is, I hope, Vlogs About Nothing. But seriously, it requires too much of anything is always a bad thing, and it's just we have to be mindful of that. We can set policies that in our own home, in our own homes and in our own communities and our own schools, that dictate, sort of the importance of doing other things in conjunction with having a healthy social digital life. There needs to be a component of which requires us to be better people in the actual physical world. So just to say that we need to improve a skill set in one area and not another is false. We obviously need to do better in both categories. And I'd say that it's the informed consent that's the problem. And to assume that younger people that are getting smarter every day can't provide informed consent on a level of which requires a functioning adult in a way that, is able to supervise in a meaningful way, right? In a way that, again, provides real other alternate opportunities for that young person to engage with so that they are distracted from being distracted. I mean, seriously, haven't we all learned by now that half of all of our existence relies upon being distracted? Holy potatoes, that one, it's sort of like, seriously, yeah. I've spent more of my life reading books and watching movies than I have anything else, and writing. You know what I mean? Like we all make our own individual decisions in that way. But to say that you have to be a certain age to use social media, I think is false, because I think it's weird that adults want to make rules that don't impact them in ways that they just want to control instead of help, instead of just like accept, deal with, and grow from that. Always like very archaic. The guy in the same video, a link in the description below, a bright guy, you feel me, not hating on the dude. Again, most of what he was selling I was buying, but I also don't think that social security should like be based on whether or not, on your financial situation. I think that that's a form of discrimination in itself. I think, when we talk about social programs, yeah, I know people don't like to hear this, but there's just the truth. Like, everybody needs them, including rich people, right? Which is kind of like not something you're going to hear a lot in terms of being, providing like a more inclusive, I'd argue, like capital socialistic kind of approach to making sure that everyone is taken care of. So I don't think that you need to be a certain age to be on social media. I think that the realm of responsibility falls within the people who created this technology to sort of offer its best approach to why being on your phone all the time might not be the best thing. You feel me? And how, just as important as your digital reputation is to young people now, it should also be instilled that their real life reputation, amongst their peers also can offer some real genuine feedback as it concerns their actual growth and development in the real world, because the real world isn't just apps and, talking to people on Zoom or whatever. It involves actual meetings. It involves getting dressed up. It involves, all of these things that, again, aren't bad standards to have. I would say they're not. But again, like, I don't know, and going back to that social security thing and with social programs and stuff, you can't alienate any group of people when it comes to social programs. And unfortunately, I say that because rich people already have resources, they already have access to capital and so forth, but we never really know in their situation entirely. I know a lot of people that were just got with a lot of people because they just like have a lot of money. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of like, so what if people shouldn't be like, nobody should be, codependent on their partner so much that they're unable to make their own financial sort of way in the world, right? And so you can't just assume that because a household couple makes a certain amount of money that both of those people have equal access to that money in terms of how it's like, spent and so forth. And so it's important for everybody to have their own social security net when it comes to social services, but namely social security and so forth. So we really need to get away from this rhetoric about how social security needs to only be given to people that need it. In terms of everyone needs it, everyone needs the capital. It's important to treat everyone the same when it comes to access to social resources, because that's the whole point of it, is that it's not discriminatory, and that even if you are rich, right, just like the way our social programs work loosely now, right? Which is, a lot of people complain that people that drive nice cars get food stamps, right? Well, I'd rather them own that nice car and the government take care of their, like, because they're spending money on things that are other than food, while the government is making it like a real cool and good priority to take care of what's already subsidized food on a mass produced level. So like, the government already pays for all of our food to begin with. You feel me? And everybody has equal access to like emergency social programs regardless of, like their income or whatever. In terms of, you're in a bad relationship, you aren't the primary financial breadwinner on paper or whatever, you leave a bad situation, you can report all of that and, get access to benefits and stuff. And so it's important that we don't get weird with who we offer our social service benefits to, especially in the future. We can afford to provide them for everybody. So it's better just to provide them for everybody. So yeah, that's just another thing that I didn't agree with that guy on the video with. So we're actually going to talk about that, I think, in a minute. So I hope you guys have a wonderful night. Thanks again for watching the videos. And until next time, bye.